この宇宙は3つの木からできています。それは天の木、すなわち太陽からやってくるエネルギーと、地の木、すなわちその惑星の大地から湧き上がってくるエネルギー、そして磁気、すなわち私たち生物自体から出ている木なんです。そういった大自然のエネルギーを読み取り活用していく技術が宇宙風水なんです。
アイス。
If you're like Jet and me, you probably consider Feng Shui something that goes over your head. For those who don't know, Feng Shui is an ancient practice from China focused on directing cosmic energy, or qi, in a way that benefits individuals in their settings. Nowadays, it's mostly about interior design and how you arrange your living spaces to promote a sense of balance and harmony. One example is placing your bed in a command position. By placing the headboard against the wall such that you can see the doors and windows, you create a sense of security that promotes more restful sleep. But what does any of this have to do with anime? Well, what if I told you that there was an anime equivalent for Feng Shui? In fact, it's not just anime. It applies to live-action films as well. It's called blocking. In filmmaking, blocking refers to the visual arrangement and interactions of the elements in a scene. It describes where you put the actors, where you place your props, how your actors interact with those props, and even the positioning of your camera. The term originates from theater, where directors would plan out actor positions using a miniature stage and blocks to represent the performers. All of these things are essential in not only creating the right ambience in a scene, but also enabling non-verbal storytelling. In other words, there's tidbits of information you can gather without anyone in the frame saying a word. Putting two characters on opposite sides of a table can portray conflict. The colors of an outfit can inform viewers who the center of attention is. The choice in props and their organization, or lack of organization, can communicate an emotional state. In the same way moving your bed can disrupt or optimize the flow of qi in your room, there's a surprising amount of change actualized by just moving things around within your frame. I started doing a bit more digging into this topic after watching an underappreciated show from last year, Overtake. It's a show about a famous photographer, Koya, who is traumatized after taking a photo of a child who's going to die from a tsunami. He loses the ability to take pictures of people until he meets a grassroots F4 racing team and their young yet determined racer, Haruka. It's an interesting intersection of hobbies, and yet the two leads are able to learn so much from one another, and the show does a fantastic job keeping the challenges and characters grounded in realism. Meika, in the Cowboy Bebop clip I just showed at the start of this video, lists 3 qis that make up the universe. In blocking, we also have 3 key components: actors, props, and cameras. And while Overtake doesn't necessarily exhibit the best implementation of Feng Shui, like Koya, what is this couch positioning? What it does excel at is how it blocks its scenes. The qi of the earth is about the energy that naturally radiates from the surface of the earth. It's an apt analogy for how Overtake channels its locations and props into storytelling devices. The scene that made me really take a closer look at this element of production is this confrontation between the two protagonists in episode 9. After his controversial past is unveiled, Koya runs away and goes missing. Haruka manages to track him down and question Koya about his reasons for fleeing. And as Koya continues to evade those questions or put them off, Haruka gets Mike Wazowski'd.
I can't believe it.
Oh, Mike.
I was on TV! Did you see me?
But instead of laughing out loud, I find myself even more drawn into the story. Because even though Haruka's face was blocked, the scene's blocking was still very appropriate for the situation. In this conversation, Koya is at the center. By placing props in between the camera and Haruka, Koya becomes isolated in the frame to convey both his lonely turmoil and the metaphorical walls he puts up to keep Haruka out. The gap in understanding between them is further emphasized by their individual cuts. The two rarely are in the same frame without some obfuscation, and the use of short-sighting, having a character face the edge of the frame they are closest to, heightens the feeling that Koya is still hiding things from Haruka and the audience. In this first conversation, Koya is successful in pushing Haruka away, and this result is communicated effectively by utilizing camera placement and the naturally occurring objects in the setting. But when Haruka finally manages to break through later on in the episode, the blocking evolves to demonstrate this shift. In the second conversation, Haruka's face is now only partially hidden behind a nearby statue. And there are more cuts where the two are pictured facing one another. That short-sighted cut also changes. The distance is halved because Koya is physically against the wall, representing the fact that he is finally being forced to be open, and now Haruka and the viewers get to learn about the story of Koya's trauma. This progress is nicely documented by the change in settings and mindfulness towards the consistency between scenes. There are a few other instances of using blocking to show development. In one of their first meetings in episode 2, the blocking demonstrates the disconnect between Koya and Haruka, personified by the large race car between them. But as Haruka warms up to Koya, that gap around the car shortens and the two eventually stand together on the same side of the car. Meika describes how there's a reaction between magnetic fields of the earth and that of organisms that creates energy. In the same way, there's a certain harmony formed from how your characters interact with their surroundings that can deliver something more visceral and instinctive than direct exposition can. In Feng Shui, people naturally emit magnetic fields. It's a clever way to describe how people influence and respond to one another even outside of talking or physical contact. People aren't robots. From their behavior, they give away how they feel about themselves and others through body language. In conjunction with blocking, the characters and their positioning can be used to not only give insight on a character's emotional state, but to also provide context for a character's relationships. Also happening in episode 9, Koya and Haruka visit a sick old man in the hospital. What I left out earlier is that Koya ran off to the town that was destroyed by the tsunami, so there's a few relationships to expand upon. The townspeople hold contempt towards Koya for failing to save the girl. This anger is demonstrated by the position of the cast around the bed. Koya, Haruka, and Koya's friend are placed on the right, while the upset townsfolk are on the left. These are our battle lines. They let us know who is on whose side in this fight. In case it wasn't clear enough, the next shot places the camera behind the townsfolk. A triangular shape is formed between Koya and the two people yelling at him. Even if you can't see their faces, you can easily tell where their eye lines go, and it quickly puts Koya at the center of both the frame and the conflict. The triangle shape appears again when Haruka interjects to defend Koya. Everyone's eyes focus on him, even if he is in the background. Lastly, this scene also places the camera behind Haruka at times, putting him in the foreground and blurring him. It's a great way to depict how Haruka is mostly an outsider to this scene. He doesn't know anybody here aside from Koya. The triangle in this frame positions him as separate from the drama. That's how easily blocking can confer information. No one questions whose side Koya's friend is on. No one ever says Haruka doesn't belong in the room. The character's magnetic fields tell you all you need to know. I've spoken about camera positioning a little bit in the last example, but while blocking in theaters is limited due to the position of the audience, in film the blocking enables the camera to also move. In the same way that the sun provides cosmic energy towards the earth, the camera, in selecting the active window for the viewer, also contributes to the scene. For instance, synchronizing camera movement with your actors or props is also a strong application of blocking. During racing, we'll see cars moving towards the camera and flying past it. At the same time, the camera will rotate 90 degrees to capture the cars moving away. This movement imparts a greater sense of speed than neutral shots, as well as providing three-dimensionality. We see a similar movement when Haruka and Koya first meet. As Haruka pushes his car past Koya, the camera remains fixed in this position but rotates to follow Haruka. This movement is then mirrored from Haruka's point of view as well. These shots are subjective camera angles that increase immersion by putting you in the character's POV. The mirrored camera angles let the viewer know the importance of this scene by adding an elevated amount of intimacy. A static camera would not be able to capture Koya's curiosity in the same manner as this moving camera does. In many ways, the camera is just another actor who can significantly alter the impact of a scene. Feng Shui is about harnessing these three energies for everyday life. It has the power to turn something bad into something good. In the same way, effective blocking can elevate a bland conversation into something both engaging and intuitive. Everybody, whether they film with an iPhone or get paid to carry a $100,000 camera, has a general idea of how to arrange the subjects in their video. but there's a greater amount of intentionality that can be applied to help deliver your story's narrative, clarify unsaid truths, and elicit certain emotions from the audience. Where you put your actors, props, and camera all influence those takeaways. Like Feng Shui, there's a myriad of ways you can channel the anime story to the audience. Maybe you want to be direct sometimes, or maybe you want to give your viewers a little more to chew on. Overtake carefully crafts its layouts and backgrounds to load each scene with plenty of subtext. If you're willing to look beyond the dialogue, you'll find that there's much more meaning in even the simplest of frames. So, now you know.